Alright guys, we have a lot to talk about with chapter 1137, so as you probably saw in the thumbnail, the first thing we're going to discuss is Kaido potentially being Harald's son. I know that wasn't said in the chapter, but we'll get into that evidence in a second. And later, of course, we'll get into the Shamrock reveal, which is just crazy. That's a huge moment for the community. And the Ancient Giant lore that we got. And to help me break this down, I brought in Commodore Laz, who has been a part of the community for a very long time. And I feel like you're going to understand how big the Shamrock moment is for the community. This is pretty monumental, you know? So, like I said, we're going to start with this Kaido stuff. But first off, Laz, how you doing, my man?
My man, Doc, I appreciate you having the invite here for me, bro. Like, just to be able to talk about Go Piece. I know that we have talked about the series before, like in different conversations and stuff. You know, of course, meeting in person and everything recently last year. But now to actually finally be here to talk about it, especially after the events of this chapter in particular, there's a lot to discuss. I'm excited for it, man. You know, it doesn't matter how tired I am, but my inherited will is keeping me going just to talk about Go Piece, and I'm here, man. The greatest adventure story ever told, bro. Like, come on, like if you got a Zenkai booster, it's right here, bro. That's what it is. So,
yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you know, you've been around the community for a long time, and with
yes,
how
sir.
monumental this chapter truly is for the community. You know, because I mean, like you said, you know, One Piece is the greatest. Like, we all love One Piece for so many reasons, but there's some chapters that stand above some others, you know what I mean, and really change the trajectory of the story, and I feel like that's kind of what happened. But first, because I know I put it on the thumbnail, and because this was the biggest takeaway of the entire chapter for me, I first want to go into this theory about Kaido potentially being Harald's son. And so,
Okay.
Again, we learned that Hajrudin is Harald's son, but from a different mom, right? So we know that
Right.
there's two mothers here. So the fact that, you know, Harald may have had a third one is not off the table. And so the main evidence for this is, for one thing, the facial hair is very close. The beard is identical.
Identical, yeah, does.
You
Yeah.
see the triangle with the spikiness, you know what I'm saying? Like, literally identical beard. Mustache. They both have a long mustache, but the difference is obviously Kaido's is dragony, because, I mean, he has a dragon form, so Oda, I think, kind of hinted it a little bit that way. And then Harald has more of like a Topman-style mustache. But I think those, I almost think those are just to, like, replace his horns in a way, you know what I mean? Because they're pointing upward.
For sure.
Like, I think that's what Oda's going for. But the best piece of evidence, honestly, for me, is look at Harold's shirt with, like, the scales on it, right? I think it's chainmail, but then Kaido's got the scale tattoo, right? Like, man, like, that to me, that really changes a lot, because I think the end of Wano, for a lot of people, you know, one of the big missteps that a lot of people talk about is there wasn't a fully fleshed out Kaido backstory. And I think a lot of us presume, or, well, Oda's saving it for later, we're going to get that, which, I mean, that's a whole other discussion, whether that's a good thing or not, you know what I mean? But obviously there is more coming, and I think that's why he's hinting this, because Kaido obviously, like, is an Oni. We don't really understand how that, you know, bloodline works with the Ancient Giants and everything. We also know he was closely tied to, you know, Moria and Oars, because he fought Moria, and Moria got Oars from Wano, and he's obviously, like, the most famous Ancient Giant, Oars is. So I guess, Laz, I just want to know, do you like this theory, and where do you see this going if it's true?
I mean, I do like the idea of it, because for a lot of people that probably know my thoughts on the backstory of Kaido, or whatever it may be that we got with him being on Vodka Islands and then being sold off, and just, you know, small, medium, big, you know, if you get the idea of the joke and stuff, you do. But I think this would be actually a really good thing, because it would open up an avenue in his life that we didn't know about, like pre-Vodka Island. It's very likely that something may have ended up happening with Harrow, where he ended up having to lose his son, or having to sell him off, or just, you know, send him out where somewhere else, because we do know the fact that Loki had time as a pirate and everything, so there's a possibility that during the time that Harrow was basically opening his borders in a similar way to Wano, because he wanted to get into the trades and stuff, and as someone who was born to Portuguese parents and knows the thing about the trades and fishing and all that and everything, it really hit home for me, like, this stuff when it comes to resonating with the but I do like that idea that if Harold ended up having a third kid. And, you know, when you look at Kaido, he does come across up as a giant when you look at him towards, like, other characters like a Luffy, a Law, or something. So I like the idea of it, and like, again, it would open up a lot more to that story, because it wasn't just this kid that was randomly in the fields just doing something and then eventually was sold off afterwards. There was something there. Harold maybe couldn't take care of him, because as we did learn in the chapter with Hajrudin and his mom, they weren't able to have, like, that relationship, and Hajrudin's mom couldn't become the queen because of the fact that she was a giant born elsewhere. And we kind of had inklings like that before in the story about, like, you know, the giants, like Saul, when he mentioned, like, you know, just because I'm a giant, I wasn't born Elbaf, and the way that he views them is more barbarian. So it's very likely that other giants outside of Saul probably felt that way, and maybe that's kind of what led to, where Kaido was born to a different mom and stuff compared to Hajrudin and with Loki, and eventually he had to cast his kid away because maybe some relations happened. Maybe Kaido was already that problem child by that point, because as we saw him afterwards with the Rocks Pirates and just the demeanor that he had afterwards, I feel like that's one of those scenarios where Harald just knew, I can't keep this kid here, otherwise there may be problems, and especially with making Elbaf look at as this country that you can work with, you can actually get into the trade business stuff with. And the fact that he took out his own horns to tell these people that he is serious about this business, I'm just like, I had that type of admiration. At the same time, though, there are a little bit of fears because of the way the Ja Rule story is being depicted of Loki and Harald. I feel like that sword in his head may be telling us a different story, but we'll dive into that after. But as it turns for Kaido, I do like the idea that if he is the son of Harald, again, there's a lot of features and stuff that I see there that could end up playing into it. And again, it would open up more for a character that I felt had a lot more to offer in terms of their background to really go up to the standard and the level that he was being depicted throughout the entirety of one arc, that everybody felt like we were on the cusp of a character that could have been one of the best villains in the story, and just the foundation was not there. And if we were not to get anything further beyond that, it's hard for me to be invested in a character that I lost interest in, and then we're going to see him again possibly in the God Valley incident, or in other parts of the story early on in the series, and just I can't come to care for it because I lost that interest in the time that we had the chance to be able to get it. But if we get it now, I mean, again, Big Mom is another character we know too that possibly could end up finding her way back with this arc. So if Big Mom's gonna get some kind of coverage, we know the whole story with her, please, for the love of God, please give that to Kaido, because that man needs something at the very least. Otherwise, a great memory in time, but something I could move on from.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You sound like me talking. Like like those are the same same kind of things I think. So I love that. There's a couple of things you said there that I wanted to touch on. I actually took some notes because I was like, all right, he's cooking a lot. I got to make sure I don't forget this. So one thing you brought up, Harald losing his horns. For one thing, that is just so badass to me. Like that
is, dude. Like
I am so pumped for Harald in general. To see any Harald lore, like whenever we see their fight animated, which I assume we will at some point, we'll get a little bit of context for how Harald and Loki's fight actually happened, and we see like all those other giants get slaughtered and Jarls get in front. Like I am ready. Like imagine Kaido. It's essentially Kaido fighting his dad a little bit, because Loki would then be Kaido's brother, right? His half brother. And so there's really a good parallel there in a lot of ways. So badass. But the beauty of him taking out his horns is, remember, Kaido lost a horn fighting against Luffy, and Onigashima lost a horn, right? So, or lost both horns by the end, right? Because I think because Zoro cut one, and then the magma dragon thingy.
Yeah,
right?
that I remember. Yeah.
Yep. So right there, it's like, is that a symbol? Is there a reason that like the ancient giants or Onis losing their horns, is that like, is that going to become a story plot eventually? Because we see now like a lot of the giants don't have the horns, right? Like, and we even saw Rodo say that the ancient giants' blood flows within them, but they don't all have horns. So we can tell that at some point that got like diluted out of the lineage, right, or whatever. And so I don't know. I'm just so excited to talk about this. This to me is like, everything else in this chapter is great, which is really saying something, that like I'm emphasizing this so much given everything else. But this to me is just so important. And one other thing that I just want to say before I forget is also, if Harald did have Kaido as his third kid, then he would have had kids with like the three types of giants, right? Elbaf giants, non-Elbaf giants like Saul presumably, and ancient giants. And that to me is like also extremely good evidence in my mind, because it's like the trifecta there. Like if he's gonna go, for two of them, might as well have three,
Yes, exactly.
So
and have the craziest one possible too, with the ancestry and stuff that's behind it. But I was going to ask you in regards to, now that we're talking about with Kaido, so obviously we assume that there's a possibility that someone like Big Mom could come back into the story. Do you have the same sentiments when it comes to Kaido? Because for me, if that was to be the possible chance that he does come back, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up taking off his own horns to kind of going back, like as a moment of like with his character where it's like something needs to change, and the one time he ever saw change maybe it might have been his own dad taking off his horns, because there wasn't a time, we don't know if like the horns were taken off prior to Loki killing him or it was like in that moment, right? So there's a lot of things that could happen there where it's like the last time he remembered a change in character, a change in persona, because remember, death completes a man, it could change a man and stuff. That's something that I could see end up happening for Kaido, and I think that would be a really dope feature there, that he's kind of trying to be closer to a man that what Harald used to be, but also trying to change his ways in some form. I don't know what it does for Yamato as well, because again, like, you know, Yamato I don't think will have the same mindset, but I think if they were to see Kaido in that manner, kind of doing similar to what her grandfather by extension would be doing, that would be quite the thing. You know, does it change her demeanor towards Kaido and everything? Like there's so many cool possibilities when it comes to that family too.
So I really love just the entire like the idea that Kaido might lose his other horn, like either willingly or maybe like he's gonna come back and like kind of still be an ass, and maybe he'll lose the other one in a fight, and then he's like, okay, wait, like okay, Joy Boy's here for sure, or you know, I don't know, like that, I don't know, something. I do like that, and because also like if he lost one, in my mind, he either has to get it reattached or lose the other one, because like I can't see him with one, you know, like that's just, I mean, Oda could, but the symbolism there, I feel like Oda's going for something, you know what I mean?
And him ripping it out too, it's like just seeing it in modern time and stuff. And then obviously when we get the flashback, it's gonna have like bro, I'm so excited for that flashback. I just gonna be ridiculous. Dude. When it actually, like, the fact that it's like as soon as it was told to us that Joy Boy was out here like moving, mobbing deep and stuff in Elbaf possibly during that time, and possibly being two Nikas and stuff there, it's like, can you just imagine that this guy was out here fighting like kaijus, like little kaiju giants, just going absolutely crazy on Elbaf, and he was just with it, like he was just with the vibes and stuff. It's just like I just can't wait, man. That's and then just the lore and everything too when it comes to like the Void Century and all that, because we already know, for me, this arc and this island in particular is going to open up so many things when it comes to just getting to that last stage of the story that used to be so far away, but it's like it's right at our doorstep now. It's just a matter of get the key, literally find the key as we are right now for Loki, open that thing up, let's go through, man.
Yeah, which I think, you know, the freeing of Loki is probably very close in my mind.
It has to be.
Yeah, because that's the type of thing that's really going to turn the arc on its head. And, you know, it already kind of has with the God's Knights pulling up. And, you know, we'll get into that a little bit more later. But to me, that's, stuff is going to get crazy. But I do think, you know, Kaido and Big Mom, like, I always thought Big Mom was definitely coming to Elbaf. I thought that was, like, a guarantee always because of the Mother Carmel stuff. They hate her. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like, especially with Loki being so important because he almost married into the Big Mom family, right? So, like, I mean, to me, that was always, like, a foregone conclusion. But now with the Kaido stuff, this is where stuff gets really interesting to me, because now, like, are Kaido and Big Mom going to come back together, which I think a lot of fans... Maybe not a lot, but a good chunk might even cringe at that idea, because I think they've had enough of Big Mom and Kaido.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. Kaido could come and learn about his real dad, like, you know, his biological dad that maybe he didn't know a lot about, because it seemed like he grew up in vodka. Like, he probably got sold to vodka when he was young or something, right? Kind of like Big Mom getting sent to Elbaf when she was young, you know, a little bit something like that. But then Big Mom needs to learn about her mom, her adopted mom, and Mother Carmel, because she does not understand appropriately who she was. And you think about Kaido having a conquest to kind of like take over the, like, to have like a war, you know, over the whole world, like meritocracy kind of thing, while Harald is the opposite. Right? He wanted to usher in an era of peace and trade and globalization kind of for Elbaf. And so when you have that kind of contrast, it's like, is Kaido going to come, and maybe he misunderstood who his dad was. Maybe he had like a hint about who Harald was, but, you know, maybe I don't know. He, you know, since he didn't live there, he didn't have a full picture. And maybe he, you know, is going to learn more about him and be like, okay, maybe he had a point. Like, maybe I shouldn't have been the way I was for whatever reason. Like, maybe my dad, you know, had a good idea. And then, because so that way his mind is flipping from what he thought originally. And then Big Mom obviously has to have her mind flip about what she thought about Mother Carmel, because Mother Carmel is not at all who she thought. And Big Mom doesn't even know, or maybe she does know, but we haven't seen her consciously acknowledge that she ate all the kids and Mother Carmel and all that. Like, I think over time she's figured it out, because she has the fruit powers, and like, where else is she going to get those from? And, you know, I think she may kind of have the inkling of an idea. But either way, if Kaido came back, learned about his dad, Big Mom came back, learned about her mom, and that somehow, you know, becomes a big plot point, and I don't know if that makes them join our side, Kaido's been looking for Joy Boy, and we're talking about the Sun God. That could come into play. And also Mother Carmel talked about a Sun God, right? With Pandora that she made. So I don't know, man. There's a lot there. Are you excited for, or do you think Kaido and Big Mom are both going to appear here, or where were you at?
I mean, honestly, like I was very scared when you said excited because with Big Mom, it's like I have my feelings and thoughts with her. I felt that with Whole Cake Island, everything, there was this character that lived up to her mystique and her status as this like mob boss, because that's what she was, right? Especially when we have like Capone and all them different people, underlings and all that. But
Peckham's
I think once we got into yes, and then it's like the stuff with the amnesia, though, that's where it really turned me off. And I guess I get it. It's like I understand what exactly Oda was trying to do with it. I personally don't like amnesia arcs unless like it's done in a way where like that person's able to recollect and refine everything about them, which again in Big Mom's case, we don't know if she's actually found everything she needs to know about Mother Caramel. I do think though the idea of her going back to the Warland village or the spot exactly where Mother Caramel was, maybe like an island off the coast, kind of like a Greenbit thing, depending on where that is, if she were to go back there and like when you go to the scene of the crime and then all those things starts reawakening in your mind afterwards, I feel like that's something I could see very much happening for Big Mom. It's like when she's back in that moment, back in that place, she remembers that time, all of a sudden it clicks for her and it's like, I did that to all those people after, because by that point after, it's like, I think it's like, just have to get her out the pain. Just get her out the pain, man. If lava can't do it, we have water, man. That's the last like chance ball that we have there from it. But I'm willing to give Big Mom an opportunity there, so long as like there is a vision, an idea behind it, and obviously Oda is capable of doing these things, whether we agree or disagree with the idea behind it. I'm willing to give that chance to it. When it comes to Kaido, for me, it's like if you can turn the ball even a little bit, even if it's not a complete 180 with his character and stuff, or just the last remnants and stuff of what I would have wanted to get from him, I think this has again a chance to be able to redeem some qualities at the very least. I mean, not the whole thing, but yeah, I'm willing to give that chance to them. I'm just curious to see how Oda's going to go about that, because that's the real ticket on it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because the amnesia thing, like, one of the issues for me is like, I already didn't like Oda's strategy with it going back to Sabo, so I was like, okay, you're doing this again. Like, I'm not super confident. Like,
and that's how you do it good. That's how you do good with Sabo. I felt that did a really good job, and it's like, oh man. Yeah,
like I like Sabo, but I was like, I was kind of neither here nor there. I was like I guess it works. Was kind of like where I was at. I was like, it's a little weird that he has his memories come back. The second Ace dies. Like, I get it's just convenient. Like, I get it. It works, but I was just it wasn't like the greatest thing for me. But it wasn't like terrible. But now whenever you do the Big Mom one, then I'm like, okay, now I'm a little worried, because like you're doing it again, and this one kind of I don't know how to really put it. It came up kind of randomly, and like you said, it didn't really have like a big plot relevance in terms of like changing her character necessarily. We got a little bit in the raid of that when like she said like, oh, like Otama, like we're such good friends, like let me take care of you. But then like 2 seconds later she tried killing her. So I was like, okay, well, never mind. Yeah. so I'm just a little iffy on Amnesia, because he's done it twice, and so I'm like, okay, Sabo was like okay, but now you're doing Big Mom and I don't get it yet. So I totally get it, but if somehow that ties back to like, I'm sure you've heard this theory before, but like Mother Carmel is like still alive in Big Mom in some way, or she's like influencing Big Mom. And if it comes to light that amnesia moment was Mother Carmel losing control for a time period, so we saw what Big Mom would be like if she didn't have Mother Carmel in her, then I'm like, okay, Oda, you might be cooking. But we aren't there yet. We don't even really have like a strong hint that's the case because of the Tama thing. So I'm with you where like, I trust Oda a lot. So if he brings her, I'm ready. But I get the amnesia worries for sure.
It reminds me a little bit. That's funny enough, though. You bring that up with the possibility that Mother Caramel could be like almost like kind of like be within Big Mom. Like I don't know if you've played Kingdom Hearts or are aware of like the series and stuff, because like they have. Okay, so if you know about Xehanort and stuff, and I'm pretty sure you may have heard like other characters here and there that are like sort of copies to them and everything. And I don't know if it could be a situation where, again, like this Like Big Mom, even though she's like her at times and stuff, that personality that's within her, because obviously they're locked away inside of them, and Mother Caramel's like influencing her, and it's like, do you have that confrontation with them like within themselves after? So maybe that's when the moment happens, when she goes to the scene of the crime where she saw everything happen again, and it's like that's when she has that talk with her, like in that, like, I wouldn't say purgatory, it would be a weird way of saying it, but something like that. And then that's when Mother Caramel kind of like moves on after, because it feels like that's what's lingering within her, is like that guilty conscience that you did something bad, but it's stuck in there and you're suppressing it so much. I think that's a big deal that people also aren't looking at, and maybe that's also on me too, because what people, when it comes to their trauma, the thing that we do all the time is that we hide it in the back of our minds, because we're not trying to remember that stuff. Who wants to remember the fact that they literally ate all these kids that were your friends, and then wonder what happened to them, and then it's like being told after, like, yeah, you did that to them. It's like, that person wouldn't be sane, and that's what we've been seeing literally with Big Mom and everything. So how do you combat that? You got to fight your demons, and that's the best way I can see Oda doing how he does it, though. That's the thing.
That is really interesting, because it, like, maybe the amnesia thing is like she's having amnesia over that moment, and so everything will come back to her when she gets there, just like after she got hit by the Brachio bomber, I think was the attack name, right? From Queen. Yep, the Brachio bomber. So
I got the Swanton bomb, man. Like, that was just greatly done by him too, by the way.
Oh, it was, yeah. Queen was great, man. Like, like overall with the funk, the dance, like he was cooking,
Yeah. I just really wish Oda just put away the Vivre cars and SBSs, like, at times, because I was so angry to find out that, like, well, I don't know if it's been directly, but it feels like it is at this point, that's probably Frankie's pops, and that's just like a whole can of worms. So I'm just gonna leave that to the side.
Yeah, no, I feel you. For me, it's like, hey, they were in the same building for a whole night having like a massive war. You couldn't at least just have them have a quick acknowledgement of it or hint. You know what I'm saying? But
and especially seeing the poses Queen be doing too, when it's like that's Frankie, that's the supers. Like, how are we not doing this, Oda? Like, oh my goodness.
I know, like. And again, it didn't have to be that they had to fight or have a big moment. It's just like acknowledge it in the raid. Like, don't tell us in the Vivre card. And I think that could be one of a lot of things. Like, talking about how we talked about the end of Wano a little bit. I think that could be one of the things that like Oda was rushing and cut it out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the Sasaki fight, in my opinion, was like kind of trash, and so you could have just got rid of that and had a Queen moment. And also, literally. Sasaki, I'm sure you've heard the theory Sasaki is Kokoro's son, right? Okay. Yeah, and so that wasn't revealed, which, like, maybe that theory is just not true, but I'm like, the setup, they drink the same, they have the same hat, they have the green hair, we know she has a son who was out in the Grand Line, as a pirate, like, all the pieces are there, and Oda didn't do it. I'm like, Frankie's getting no love. And then Kazuki Yao, he also... retired, right, from being Frankie's voice actor. Yes, and so now Frankie's got a new voice actor. I'm like, this is just a bad year for Frankie. 2024 really was not Frankie's year, man, at all.
But I will say, though, he has a good chance to bounce back in 2025, honestly. Especially, besides using the tech and stuff. The Atom Tree, of course, because I know it's kind of diving into, like, in Elbaf and all that and stuff, but I do think there's an idea and a possibility that we are going to get more upgrades when it comes to the Thousand Sunny. It feels like the right time, too, in the final saga. I don't know if it's going to be, like, we're going to have a ship now that's on equal standing to, let's say, a Pluton, for example. Because at the end of the day, these ancient weapons, I am still of the belief we're going to get all of them reawakened back into the story. And if anyone's going to have their eyes or their possession on Pluton, is seemingly going to be Blackbeard. And if he is going to be the final pirate-to-pirate fight in the battle for One Piece, I feel like you have to build that ship in preparation to go up against, a literal ancient weapon in Pluton. And this will be the most opportune time. You are literally in the presence of a treasure tree that is the Atom Tree that can give you what you need to get that extra upgrades and whatever. We know, again, with Frankie, because of this time they spent in Egghead and what he possibly had learned with Vegapunk, which I would have preferred to get that in the arc, but if we get to see the results come here afterwards. And Oda does have that thing where he likes to throw that little flashback thing, by the way, in the background, while it could have been in the main story, but I'm just gonna put this in here. He has been learning these things, so if he uses it, that'll be good. If he doesn't use it, then Orida.
Yeah, I've been really big on the Pluton blueprint grind. Like, I've been bringing that up a lot because, you look at Leloucia, hole in the ocean. What's the other hole in the ocean we've seen? Enies Lobby. What was one of the big plots of Enies Lobby? Getting the Pluton blueprints. What was Pluton said to be able to do? Delete an island in a single blast. What happened at Leloucia? Delete an island in a single blast. For me, I'm real big on the Frankie Pluton blueprints coming into play, whether that's him building one, whether that's this is like one of my favorite ideas, whether that's him connecting to Punk Records and then Lilith being like, whoa, what is this? What, Frankie, what is this? Whoa. And then you could have York, who's also still connected, right? York will be like, Emu, I got something. You know what I mean? Like that's something I want, because then what can happen is the Straw Hats can go get the real Pluton, and then the bad guys can maybe make like a real anti-Pluton, which I think might be Emu's weapon. That's like kind of my guess for it, because they said like it's an ancient weapon, but throughout Enies Lobby they were like, they called the like, you're gonna rebuild Pluton, and it wasn't until the very end where Frankie's like, well, it's actually a counter. So like Vegapunk calling that an ancient weapon, I'm like a knockoff Pluton would count, in my mind. So regardless, I'm big on Frankie, having a big role here, especially with the Atom Tree, what I mean, or the multiple Atom Trees that exist in the world, which
that really caught me off guard, because I was like, I knew, like, of course, with the Eve Tree that was down in Fishman Island, and then of course we know about the Atom Tree now in here. When they said multiple, because I'm just thinking like, because like this is how you know the One Piece world as a whole in totality is just too damn massive.
Yeah.
And it speaks even more volumes of the fact that we know the current predicament with the world too, that it's, the sea levels are rising and stuff is getting too damn high. At some point in time, like, everything's gonna go up into the waters and stuff, right? So yeah, it's just, I mean, man, it's just this entire world is just crazy, dude.
Yeah. Well, One Piece is just it's just amazing, man. Like, and
it is, man.
And that's kind of a good segue, because we've been talking a lot about that Kaido thing and stuff that weren't even in this chapter, but we have plenty to talk about in the chapter. So
yes.
We are gonna go ahead and get into the next thing that I wanted to bring up. Gotta hide those real quick. And wait, no, wrong one. No, wrong one. Hold on, where did I put it? Is it here? Wait, give me 1 second. 1 second. I know I got it. There it is. That's what I wanted to talk about. So the first thing, we're going to go in order now, FYI, anybody watching. So first we're going to start with the Yamato cover story, which has continued.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know about you, but I've been very disparaging of it, except for the last couple weeks, because it was just going so slow. It's like Oda wasn't really showing us a lot for a lot of those weeks, right? It was just Yamato like meeting people and stuff. I'm like, we just saw them. We can move things along. But now we saw the who's who. It's like his head was like on top of the building, which reminded me a lot of Onigashima. And now we're peeking into there, and we see that some of the guards here, some of the I don't know if they're gifters or whatever, but Kaido henchmen from before, I imagine,
or now henchmen to who's who, basically,
are henchmen to who's who. And something I brought up in my stream, which I got a couple comments about, some questioning and some were supportive. So I guess I just want to explain it and get your thoughts on it. It could definitely be that they're like reestablishing the Beast Pirates in some way. I think that's like what maybe some people are presuming. But what I brought up was that it could just be like a cult type situation, because who introduced us to Nika? Who's who? And you see these guys all wearing these ears and stuff. It's like, are they joining like the who's who religion? And I know that sounds weird, but I think what could be happening is, instead of restarting the Beast Pirates, which, like, is that possible? Sure, but also like King and Queen are still alive. They probably got taken to Impel Down, but regardless, they're higher ranking. And then also Jack, we don't even know where Jack is. So if anybody was going to restart the Beast Pirates, first off, they would want to get confirmation that Kaido's dead, and then second, they would follow Jack, I would presume. So, but I mean, it still could be that, but I guess that's why I'm going more towards like a cult type thing, because maybe Who's Who is just trying to make his own version of the Nika following, right? Because he understands how that works pretty well. Or the other angle to it, which is kind of an amalgamation of both, is that he is basically being the stand-in for Ashura Doji. He's being like Yamato's Ashura Doji right now.
Right.
Where, remember, for Odin, whenever he was traveling around, he went and first beat Ashura Doji in Curry, which that was like a land of bandits and all that kind of stuff, and that got him a lot of respect. And Ashura Doji ended up being one of his followers, and it feels like Yamato is going around like Odin getting retainers right now. That seems to be the point of this. And so I think that might be what happens, is Yamato goes in there and just maybe beats them all up, and then Who's Who starts following Yamato. That might be simply where this goes. Or maybe it is the cult thing, or maybe it's a combination of both. It could honestly be that too. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it? Or where do you think the cover story is going to go also?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, though, I want to say shout out to Tama, man, because listen, I love Yamato and just getting to see. And again, I know everyone has their own opinions and stuff, whatever. I've heard more than enough of it. She's gonna be crew anyways at one point when Luffy spins the block and stuff. But I was so happy that I was getting Tama there too, just seeing like her being the actual Kunoichi and everything. That Ace, told her, if you become this great Kunoichi and everything, you might come with the crew and everything. But I do like the fact that she's getting involved more in the combat and stuff. The fact that she actually put the feet on Hold'em. Yeah. I was like, okay, hold on a minute. Like, she got the combat already patted down as a ninja and stuff. So, I mean, listen, I've been seeing some funny memes and things there. It's like, if we could put Tama out there in the war and stuff, we're going to be good. Like, she got hockey, whatever and stuff. But all jokes aside from that, just getting to see them do the interactions and everything were other things that I'm happy that we're getting right now as to what it's going to lead towards. Because again, with Yamato's, the whole axis of it was basically getting to see Wano first, what the world of Wano was like, just from your own 2 feet before moving on to the next stage. I feel like that's also a thing that even though it probably should have been done better in the story from Oda's part, is that Yamato needed to know the surroundings. Because again, they were locked up for a long period of time. They only knew about Onigashima since that they've been alive. So if it was like to ask somebody to go, it's like a situation like someone to feel like you're a NEET. If you're someone that has been holed up in your room the entire time, and then ask them, hey, let's go on a trip afterwards to like England or like somewhere that they've never it's just like that's just horrifying in some ways, because it's like what like the cultures, just all these different things. So to have Yamato just leave that and go out in the world and stuff, I think would have been a crazy thing there. But again, that's up to Oda to tell us that or not. In terms of actually what the actual thing that we're getting here, I like the idea of the cult. I do feel like in some ways, because as someone that is a massive fan of the Yakuza video game franchise, this does feel like in some ways of like, so essentially Kaido is like the main honcho and stuff, and when he got down, I feel like what's happening was we're starting to see the remnants build like their own family. So maybe if there's a chance that we do see Jack again, Jack might end up having his own people, kind of like what we saw before. I think it was what the one member that I remember was back in Zou, that she ended up getting taken out by Zunisha. It's been so long, I remember her.
Jinrami, the girl?
Ginrami and stuff. And I think it was already confirmed that she's deceased, if I'm not mistaken or not. I don't remember if we got confirmation on that.
I didn't know that.
I would have to double check on my notes on that one, but I remember because there was a long period of time we didn't see her, so I was always presumed that she would have been dead. But I would have to go back and look. But what I'm basically getting to is that the remnants of Kaido's crew are essentially not just building like their own factions to kind of be able to keep their standing, or I guess like just keep on going basically. Because in the world of the Yakuza, it's like if you lose like your Obasan or the boss and everything there, you're not gonna just I'm gonna go to just do a regular life and stuff. They just want to be able to now take that power, the power vacuum that comes from it, from losing the leader, and just go off and doing their own thing after. So I think that's essentially what I can see going down when it comes to who's who and what they're trying to gear towards, especially the thing on the helmet, like on the roof thing, whatever, it shows like who's like masks and stuff. I think it's almost kind of basically tell you you're in his territory, this is where he belongs, and then we're gonna probably see that fight afterwards between Yamato and who's who, exactly what his plans are and stuff. I guess we'll find in a limited time there in the cover story, but I think that's what's going to happen there. But it is very interesting that if Kaido were to come back in the story, how he would feel that there are people now that are going off and doing their own thing. Will he be happy that they're going off and, making their own families and their own factions and stuff and kind of handling their own business? Or he's going to feel like, hey, I'm still here. You're supposed to roll up with me and stuff. Like, what are you guys doing, right? So that's going to be really curious there. But I do think, though, if the change happens with him and Harald, with him kind of seeing his dad in a different viewing and stuff, and kind of takes more of his ideologies and all that kind of stuff, I think he may be very open to saying, you know what, y'all do what you got to do. I messed up on my part. I got to do my own time and everything before I can even think about the idea of making like another crew and trying to challenge for the world again.
Right. Yeah, because he was all about like meritocracy. Like he even told the Flying Six, like, hey, I think it was like if you beat Drake or if you kill the traitor or the snitch, then you will get a chance to become an all-star or whatever, right? I think that's what they said. And so given that Kaido lost, I that's a really good question you posed, and I think Kaido would actually respect their choice to do their own thing, because it's like, yeah, I lost, like that. What else are you gonna do? I showed my weakness. Like that's exactly. Like you're fending for your life. What else is like you're taking over territory? That's what I would do. If my captain lost, I would do the same thing you're doing. That is actually what I did, because after Rocks lost, I went and started my own thing.
It is the exact same thing too. And I will also love the game, because we're gonna get into the flashback eventually with the Rocks Pirates. But I always love this thing about Kaido's character, that he always, because we always got this emphasized throughout the story. Robin said it to Luffy and Law and stuff. You know, pirates in the end will always betray each other. You can't trust a pirate, and then that's what Kaido really emphasized on. It's like pirates are going to betray each other at the end. I've always been the big belief, and I did this and I talked about it in the video before with the Rocks Pirates when they were first brought in, that Kaido probably saw them being betrayed. Like, he basically saw everyone just bounce from God's Valley as soon as things got bad afterwards, or a certain thing probably happened that led to Rox's defeat afterwards, and then he just felt like, this is the nature of pirates. Like, no matter, even if I join up with this crew, with these people and stuff, they are in for themselves. That's just the nature of a pirate. And obviously, that isn't the case with Luffy and them and the people that we have seen throughout the series, that, they are going after something, but not at the cost of other people's lives and whatnot. So it's one of those things for me, man, where it's like, I think eventually when we do get like that whole flashback, we'll get more of the ideologies and stuff that makes Kaido as person, and just make that complete character that I'm just waiting on there.
Yeah, I'm so ready for that. And honestly, like, as far as this cover story goes, in my mind, I think it's definitely going to end with us finding out what happened with Kaido and Big Mom. And then that will parlay into like the real story. Like, because if you go back to the Whole Cake cover story that we had, whenever like Blackbeard pirates and Germa invaded Whole Cake, right, or because Germa got saved or whatever, you know what I mean, that whole cover story, whatever that one was called, I just can't remember what the name of it was, but but basically whenever they first showed Kuzan and Augur with Pudding, that was the same chapter where we saw Pudding with the Blackbeard pirates. Like, literally the cover showed her, and then later we see her again. Like, it's like, wow, Oda, like you weave those together beautifully. You know what I mean? And I think he's going to do the same thing, because I feel like I've said this like a million times in my different videos, because people probably already know where I'm going with this, but every cover story, like 99% of the cover stories basically, are meant to show us how past villains get back into the story, right? Like, they connect past villains from the point we defeated them until we reunite with them, right? Like, Oda, that lets Oda build the world a little bit so it doesn't feel really crazy that we're meeting this person again, right? So like whenever an L comes back and he starts talking about the moon, well, good thing we have the moon cover story to reflect, you know. So Oda does this a lot, and so I think that's where this is going, and I think it starts with us seeing Onigashima in the first chapter. And I guess that was a long-winded way of kind of saying where I think this is going to end up in the very, very end is Blackbeard might pull up to Wano for Pluton, and that would parallel Whitebeard pulling up, who took Odin away from Wano. So if Blackbeard pulls up and Yamato somehow goes away with Blackbeard, not saying that Yamato will join Blackbeard, like maybe Yamato will be fooled and not understand that Blackbeard's a bad person because Yamato doesn't know the world very well.
That would be something. That
would be super, because like, Yamato, you're hanging out with the person who caused Ace's death, or like led to it. Yeah. Like, you know, like that's your you, like, Ace is like the one friend you had, you know, like, but you know, Yamato wouldn't do a full Odin parallel, because Odin like grabbed the chain and, you know, got pulled behind, and Yamato has a devil fruit. So we can't do the full parallel, but I definitely think something's going to happen where Yamato, I don't know if Yamato's going to defend the island from Blackbeard, or, you know, maybe even help him so Yamato can get off the island, you know, but I think there's definitely like a Whitebeard parallel, like, because I imagine Blackbeard shows up, uses a Gura attack, just like when he showed up and Odin fought him. Yamato matches that, and so we get the same thing over again, right? Like Odin versus Tremor Fruit. Like, I think that's got to happen.
I think so too, and then at the same time as well, I just have this great fear in the back of my mind that if Yamato is to go up against the Blackbeard Pirates, I do think the way the cover sword could end is going to lead to Blackbeard pulling up, whether we actually get to see it on screen or not, because, you know, we have the tendency of we have to do it off screen because the sword's so massive, we have to keep on going. Because there is that fear that I think that the news coup may end up dropping on the Straws at the worst possible time, that Yamato, Wano, and just in general has been seized by the Blackbeard Pirates. I've always been of this belief that with every arc that's passed in the post-time skip, Blackbeard's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And I mean, the fact of what he did to Law and his crew, who was supposed to be depicted as one of the guys that could be challenging for those Yonko spots, finished them like that. You know, with Luffy, it's like, Again, we depend like on Akainu, other characters, outliers and stuff that could be on that range and everything. But with me, like Blackbeard, I just think it's just Shanks underneath him. Looking at characters who have done something, who have their feats are proven, their name is out there and all that. I think it's just under him. Like if you were to face Akainu, it would be the extremist of extremists, but he's gonna find a way to get through, whether it be honorable or not. He's gonna get it. And then of course there's another individual in relation to Shanks that I don't know if the comparisons and powers and stuff. We'll get to him after, but I do think there's that great danger that Wano's gonna end up getting seized, and it's gonna be like too little, too late for the crew. It's like, well, we can't double back now to Wano. They already got this thing called Pluton and stuff, and like, do we have to beeline it to, you know, what it would be? Oh my God, what's the name of the islands? It's the one before you get to Raftel, the one that's Buggy and them had to stop at with Lodestar. If you have to stop over there first as like a last rest stop, and then boom, straight to the end game, or something else has to change, because I don't think they go back at any point to any of the previous islands unless it's like the extremists of like, we have to go back there, like
Fishman Island maybe, but that's also going to Marijwa
just because that's like the easiest one there because of that stuff, right? And then obviously we're going to find out whether or not the future that was being told and stuff of Luffy bringing ruin afterwards is going to happen. I do think it's going to happen, just not in the way that it was being perceived to us initially upon its depiction the first time around. So
I'm of the mind that like that will be Luffy doing it, but it's not like, you know, Shiarly was reacting like Luffy is bringing the terror upon everyone. It's like Luffy's saving you guys. Like if that is Luffy, you know, people have talked about like Katarina Devon causing it or something. And I mean, you know, like all those theories are fun because we've seen cloning like with Mr. 2 also, and just regular clones like that, you know, that's definitely something Oda's done. But I think everyone knows, like if that's Luffy, he's saving them, you know, like he's either causing that destruction for a good reason, like destroying Marijwa, which is right above it, you know, destroying the Red Line or something, or somebody else caused it and he's saving them, you know, like it's not like, obviously, you know, that's not you know, the way it seems, but as for everything else you said, I agree. Like Yamato, like we're not going to go back to any islands other than Fishman Island / Marijwa, and so for Yamato to then, you know, rejoin the crew, which I do think will happen. I think that, I don't know if that's like still controversial to a lot of people, but I just feel like, listen,
I did a whole video about her being the chronicler, the person that actually writes the stories and stuff of the series, even though it's like that should be Usopp's role, but like if he's going to be this brave warrior of the seas, that's a whole thing. We don't need to have you do this and that. You stick to your own thing. Let's give Yamato this, because at the very end of the story, they'll have that entire journey. She'll literally be writing One Piece. That's literally what it would be. Exactly. So I would love to have that there, right?
Because Odin did that for Roger, right? So that's the whole, like, you know, and also Ace had
Master Deuce, Deuce, I was gonna say that's
my guy. And so I agree. And also, I just want to throw this out there. People have also said like, oh well, Carrot should join because they need a lookout. I'm like, what is Usopp doing?
Yeah, it's exactly. What is the point of him, bro? Like, come on, like he's just right there. He observation hockey, it's perfect. He can see everything from a mile away. Like, come on, bro, like, dude, like you don't want to be the ruler of Zou? You don't want to be the ruler of an island? What? Like, come on, man. Like,
I mean, Carrot walking up with Zunisha in the final war will be badass whenever that happens.
Oh, absolutely. But I can't wait for that.
But what won't be badass is if Usopp has someone else be the lookout. It's like, dude, like, you're the sniper, like that. You're supposed to be looking out, like that. That's your. You could shoot people before they even get to us. Like, that's your job. Like,
can you imagine someone just being there, but like, hey man, he right there, bet. And like that's your job. You're just pointing out there, and then Usopp's gonna snipe. Like, Usopp can see that. We don't need that. Like,
so
are you disrespecting
totally
him like
agree.
Like,
totally. And as for Yamato, like you said, like, we don't have someone who can, you know, write the book. And going back to Usopp, like you said, Usopp could do it, and I agree, because Usopp is a man of many talents. To be honest with you, right? He's like probably he's one of the smartest people on the crew, honestly. Even though he doesn't get that respect, like, he's like a normal person. You know,
and he
like
did too much in the pre-time skip as well too. Like, he was basically the one that was taking care of the Going Merry prior to them inheriting after Frankie as their shipwright and all that too. So
exactly. And so but like I was saying, you know, he should be the lookout. I mean, he's always going to be the sniper, but the lookout should be like a subsidiary role of that, like, you know. And so if he's doing that, then we need someone to write the book, and Yamato would make, perfect sense.
And not to mention, you also have another character that comes into the group in terms of the Straw Hats that actually ups them. Like, in terms of, like, you think of, like, the ceiling of how high they can get, but also raises the floor.
Yeah.
I feel like that will be a big thing, too, because it's like, you have the weak trio, you have, like, the base that's there, like, with Frankie, with Brooke, and with Usopp, and how they're going to try and push them there, Robin in there and stuff. I feel like Yamato helps edge it a little bit more, where they actually truly feel like that Yonko crew. Not to say that the crew as themselves right now aren't, because by classification, by designation, that's what they are depicted as right now. But when you look at it from a power standpoint, again, we as a community, we care about power scaling and all that. If you put them up against Shanks' crew, do they win a battle? That's the thing. You do things like that with the Blackbeard Pirates. Do they have a chance? Against Kaido and Big Mom, they had a chance, but again, you need
a lot of help
to help you out. So can you do that 1v1? If you have a Davy back fight right now against the Blackbeard Pirates or with Shanks' crew, are you winning that? I still don't know. Luffy, I'll be fine with. Sanji and Zoro, I'm fine with. Jinbei to some degree, I'm fine with. But it's like everyone else, it's up for grabs, man.
Yeah, like Nami. I mean, if you got like a good, if Zeus has a good advantage, maybe. But that's like, that. I mean, she's a super glass cannon in that regard. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. And it's like, I love a glass cannon that can do something for us. But if you could put that one dent in the glass cannon and it shatters, it's over, man. That's not a risk I'm willing to take on that.
Yeah, and we don't. We don't have to go too far into this, but just a little preview for anybody who's watching, because I have like these videos on my main channel coming out about the Blackbeard versus Straw Hat matchups. I've been doing it for like a couple years. I'm almost done. I've been doing one every like couple months.
Nice.
And all I have left are Vasco Shot and Katarina Devon's opponents, and then Blackbeard, which I'm saving that for last. And my next one is Nami versus Vasco, and that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about is like, not like, I mean, Vasco is going to be kind of ruthless, and so I just like, Nami's glass cannon, she's going to be put to the test against, someone like Vasco. He's like, he's a messed up dude in a lot of ways, but he also was said to be like one of the most like violent or one of the most dangerous. I think he was said to be the most dangerous or something among the people in level 6. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so I think it's just the Vaughn was the one underneath or whatever the way that was being depicted.
Yeah, so he's I got a lot of hype for him, and I think he has a sake fruit, Nami has a high alcohol tolerance. There's like some cool stuff.
It's just match made in hell.
Yeah,
no have been there. There, man.
Honestly. So the next thing I want to go ahead and jump into, just kind of keep moving along here. Let me find the right panel again. Sorry guys, I wish I had this set up a little bit better. Not that, although I do want to talk about that. So right here, and we talked about this a little bit, so I just want to run a couple ideas by you. So this is just the panel about, how the Giants have ancient warrior blood or ancient giant blood, right? Which I think is a pretty big reveal, because a lot of, like, we don't really know how Oars' bloodline worked. Like, we know there's Oars, and like Oars Jr. had Oars the Third on his flag, and so that's led people to think the Oars in Thriller Bark is Oars the Second, and maybe there's a prior Oars before that, which for a long time I thought could be Joy Boy, but it seems like now that's no longer the case, because we saw the Joy Boy silhouette, right? Well, we've seen a few now, but the one with Emeth was clearly him, and that did not have horns, or he wasn't very big. But what I want to run by you is, building off of this, something, well, for one thing, this is the second time we've had Oars mention this arc already, because Usopp did. And I would argue it's the third time we've had him hinted, because Loki's introduction was literally Oars' introduction. Right, chained up, cold place, dude with horns, giant, right, all that kind of stuff. And now we know they're related. Well, they're related in some way. They share blood in some regard, right? And so, for one thing, I guess 2 questions. One, what are your expectations for Oars this arc and the Oars lore? Because I'm a big Oars guy. And then second, do you think Oars could be one of Joy Boy's crewmates? And that's what we're going to find out. Because if you go back the last few arcs, we've met Emeth, a giant robot with horns, who was like the egghead Joy Boy comrade that we met. You go back to Zoe/Wano, we had Zunisha, who was also a Joy Boy ally who had horns. Now it was tusks, so we're cheating a little bit. But regardless, Zunisha is another person with horns. And so now, are we going to maybe learn that Oars was a Joy Boy crewmate, and he's like the Elbaf Joy Boy crewmate that we're meeting, because we, met one in Egghead, met one in Zoe/Wano. I mean, Zunisha was in both. So like, so yeah, what are your expectations for Oars, and what do you think about that idea?
I mean, I do like the idea and stuff, and I actually go like more into the descendants and stuff with the Oars Junior. The way that I read the chapter, and especially with that part there after we're saying that these belong to someone with ancient giant warrior blood, and that there's no longer any pure blooded members. When it comes to Oars, and I guess like with their whole like bloodline and stuff, I guess, you know, if you will, does he classify himself as the ancient giant warrior blood? Like, is he a part of that section? Is he only a half? Is he quarter? Because the way that I read that, and maybe just me thinking too much on it, because it's been a long time since we've seen him. I think it was when Marineford, you know, we had seen other members that were part of, you know, Whitebeard's alliances and stuff that came back into the story, were taken out. It kind of felt like to me, like, unless like it's a miss depiction or whatever from me, that it feels like Oars Jr. is gone from the story, is the way that I kind of took that in. It's like, wait, so I thought he was gonna be around, but if that's your way of implying that he's not around, but I do think maybe there's a chance that they come back. But with Oars and stuff,
there could be other Oars, right? Because we don't really know, like, where did Oars Jr. come from? You know, like,
exactly.
Where's it? Because also something I just want to bring up, because I just had like a mind or a brain blast a second ago.
Okay.
Hajrudin is 81, and Oars Jr. is 72, or would be 72 if he's still alive. I guess we don't really know if he is or not for sure. I'm not really sure. But regardless, so Hajrudin's older than Oars Jr. Is Oars Jr.'s mom Kaido's mom, or is that...
That would be something, wouldn't it?
Because, like...
When you look at the design and stuff too, I mean, like, granted, it's the horns really, those doesn't have the beard, but if he actually grew out a beard, the 3 skulls, I don't know, man. I mean, like, it's not a bad idea, like
because the thing is like they're looking for full-blooded ancient giants or whatever, right? But I guess I'm wondering, I mean, now we're getting to the idea that Harald would have had like 4 wives, which, I mean, dude, maybe he's Big Dad. Is he Big Dad? You know, is that what we're talking about? Is Big Daddy? And so could it be that, like, he went and found, like, Mrs. Oars and had a kid with her, and that was Oars Jr.? Went and found, like, an Oni Queen person and had a kid with her, and that's Kaido? Like, was he just shagging every giant that he could possibly find? And
it seemed like it with the culture back then, with how giants were depicted through Elbaf. I mean, again, going back to Saul with, like, the whole, you know, they're considered, like, barbarians, the way that he looks at them and everything. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's what, like, their culture was based on. I mean, Ripley, in some ways... Like, even though it's not directly, because again, her husband is supposed to be human, and I assume, and you maybe assume too, it might be Scopper Gaban and stuff. But if that's like how the ideology was like back then, it just kind of would make sense. They were just out here having kids, doing whatever, because they're just savages, right? This the savages of Elbaf. That's what they were out here doing, right? So that would be pretty crazy, yeah.
Man, that I didn't even think of that before I did this, but now I'm like mind blown. Like maybe this whole, you know, Harald is Kaido's dad idea is just much bigger than I had anticipated. I mean, yeah, because, like, actually, I mean, well, dude, okay, so another thing, Jarl is like 408 years old. Yes. It's possible that the ancient giants live even longer than that, because, like, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't really have a whole lot of reason to think that, but, like, I mean, they're bigger, and, like, if giants are bigger than humans, and they live longer than humans, and if ancient giants are even bigger than regular giants, then maybe they also live longer. If, you know, maybe that idea works. And so it could be like, what if, like, the original Oars' sister, or like the Thriller Bark Oars' sister, and now this also goes back to Oars being in Wano, where Kaido was holding. Like, what? Dude, I'm like, I don't even know what to make of all this.
Because as we know, Ace is the one that made the Kinasa, I think it was called, the name of the hats and stuff. The hats and stuff that Tama and them learned and stuff. He made that for him.
Oh my god, yeah, that too.
Like, and again, it's like we know Kaido was like, he was in Wano and stuff during that period of time, based on the way that the story was going about it and stuff. So yeah, I mean, he probably did meet him. We know that Kaido did try to go after Whitebeard at one point in time. So there's you can't. I don't think we could deny the idea that he may have ran into Oars at some point. And it's like, you know, you look familiar there, you know, and then it's like, oh damn, like because again, like, obviously you can say the color, like green skin and stuff. Right. Kaido has more of like a natural, like, giant look to him and everything, but it's like, hey man, if blood is blood, like, who am I to deny it, right?
Right.
So,
wow, man, that's
And it's like, you know, what's really interesting to me is like whenever we get the flashback and stuff, because I do find it very interesting when it comes to Big Mom. When we saw her flashback when she was in Elbaf, we didn't really get to see like, you know, Loki's birth, especially with the others like Goldberg, and I forgot who the other one was Stanson. There was like, it was 3 in total that were born during that period of time. We didn't get to actually see them, but I always had, this is just my dream at the time when it came to Kaido's flashback, because I always felt that he was this Oni, like we're actually legitimately gonna see demons. Like when we saw the oh my god, was it the numbers? I think they are, right? The big
numbers,
giant
the
ones,
ancient
like,
giant
the Gengars and stuff. And
yeah.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, we're going, like, I'm gonna see this guy hop out of an egg, like Chrono Trigger, and all around him it just be nothing but Onis. And I'm like, if you can do that instead for me in Elbaf, like a young Herald or something, I'll be grateful for everything Oda has ever done already in the story, but I'll be more grateful for that there.
Yeah.
Like, that would be so beast.
Man, that, man, I love the Ancient Giant and Oars hype this arc, man. Like, I kind of thought we would get it, but, like, this is much more than I was expecting, and, man...
Yeah.
If anybody watching had, like, a brain blast on how to connect all this, definitely leave a comment. I'm gonna be checking.
Yes.
This is, like... Because, like I said, I didn't even have some of these ideas coming in. I just wanted to talk about the Kaido, you know, Harold's dad. But now with the Oars stuff, man, this iceberg, we just figured out this iceberg goes a lot deeper, you know, than initially thought. Like this, wow, man.
I mean, I have like one more there too, which is even
it.
crazier because, you know, you go for the years, how old like Ja Rule and the other one was 400 some years. We know something happened 400 so years ago on with an individual who was roaming around the seas and stuff and found himself up the Knocking Stream and found himself up in Skypiea. Let me tell you something right now, Dak, and just how we go from it.
I'm ready.
What if at some point in time, because we know this man was out here traveling all that Noland had somehow found his way over in Elbaf, and that Usopp is going to find something of a connection there that's just going to enhance this whole thing and become this brave war in the seas, but also enhance the idea that just maybe there is a legitimate connection now between Usopp and Noland, like some kind of familial tie or just something that's there in regards to him. And my camera decides to die on me right there.
You were cooking. It's Emu.
Moment.
It's Emu and the Gore.
It's Emu, bro. Emu cooked me.
Look,
they didn't want me to get this out.
I don't know if you were looking at what I was doing, but I was just shaking my head, just very just. I was nodding in agreement the entire time. I knew where you were going the second you started talking. And okay, you're absolutely cooking for one thing. I've been on this agenda for a long time. I don't know if you know this or not, Laz, but I mean, I know there's a lot of Nolan fans, so I hesitate to say that I'm the number one, but I have to be in the conversation because that's probably my number one non-favorite Straw Hat. Like you know what I mean? Like favorite character that's not Straw Hat.
I got you.
Like that guy, he just... I can't say it. We will be here for 5 hours talking about how great he is. Nobody, well, other than maybe Rosie Dante, nobody has done more with less chapter time than Nolan. Like nobody has made more of an impact on me in fewer panels than he did. I probably know his whole flashback by heart, and I can still go watch it and tear up because he's the GOAT. But I agree with you. He's absolutely been to Elbaf. You know, he visited the small people in Dressrosa, which is in the New World. He's got to go meet the giant people. Yep. And here's the thing that I'm kind of glad you didn't say, because I guess I'll get your thoughts on this. And then after this, we're going to jump right to Shamrock, just because we don't have too much time, and I know people definitely want to hear that. But just last thing on Noland. What if you know how Jarl is conveniently... Or Ja Rule. I always say Jarl.
I call him Ja Rule,
but Ja Rule's hilarious just because of the real Ja Rule. Yeah, exactly. But Jarl, you know, he's conveniently 408 years old, and Noland was traveling 400 years ago, meaning Noland could have met Jarl. And Jarl is still alive.
Bro.
And so talking about the Usopp connection, what if Usopp does something and then Jarl looks at him and is like, you know, you remind me of this adventurer that visited me 400 years ago. And then that goes into a whole new Nolan flashback with all the stuff he did in Elbaf.
Dude.
Like, give me that. And then Usopp has like this moment of like, because remember how he lied about being related to Noland? And then he can have this moment of like, oh my God, like I am the modern Noland in some ways, right? Like Luffy also is. I think Oda's splitting Noland into two people with Luffy and Usopp, and that's why Luffy and Usopp are the ones who are so excited about Elbaf more so than anybody else.
Yeah.
This is all going back to Noland, the summit of High West. Noland, imagine Noland came here found out, oh wait, you can go to the sky, and then the gears start turning a little bit. Like wait, like that island had disappeared. Like could it have? But then then he got put to death later. But to me,
yeah, of course,
yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm with you on the Noland agenda.
Yeah. My copium right now is just the fact that Emu stopped me from saying any further what you said right there. Yeah. So just know I was cooking, but Dak came and saved me at the right time.
Yep.
Man. So yeah.
I was sitting here like I don't have my Stream Deck set up, and I keep forgetting because I try to use it. I'm trying to use it more, but once I changed some stuff on my computer and it's just not working. I have to reset the files. But I really wanted to hit the "you're cooking" thing on my Stream Deck the entire time. Oh man, like the Jesse Pinkman or even the Walter White, like he sniffs, he's like, someone cooked here, that one. Cooked it. Yeah. Had to get that one. Yeah. But all right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the next thing real quick. Okay, you know what? I gotta talk about this. Like we're gonna for like a minute we're gonna discuss this because I love this moment. The recontextualization of Hajrudin to me is amazing. Like the king of the giants, we knew he said that, but adding on that extra context of like there's all these different giant races and Hajrudin wants to become the giant of all of them, not just Elbaf. To me, Hajrudin skyrocketed in my like Grand Fleet rankings, and so I don't know. What's your reaction to the Hajrudin hype at this point?
I mean, I really love the whole thing with Road, especially because that's what segues into the whole thing afterwards. It's like with this character, I wasn't so crazy on him, especially with the manner of his like demeanor and everything. And then eventually seeing like, he was the way that Hajrudin was basically treated and stuff, because of the fact that his mom wasn't from Elbaf and everything. But he, Luffy was questioning, okay, so then why are you hanging out with them? And then he realizes that like, just because I don't bear the blood fully of someone that's from Elbaf, this is the guy that I could believe could become king, and it's just from the simple fact that he's willing to accept them being a friend. Mm-hmm. And it's such a simple thing with Oda. It's like if you can see, it's like Luffy, yeah, exactly. It's like when you see those friendships being made and stuff right there. It's like how the hell would I not want to be by this person's side, even if I say like their goal wasn't to become the king, but just be like whatever. Mm-hmm. Like just that act of kindness right there is what you see in a future king, and I still do believe he is going to be the future king. Whether it comes down to Loki accepting it, being by his side, possibly dying, or even possibly leaving Elbaf, that is to be seen.
Or both of them become king, because, there could be an angle where Loki leads Elbaf and Hajrudin leads the rest of them. Because think about Yorl and Jarl, Dory and Brogy, right? There's always these double giants leading, right? And so you add Hajrudin, who is also captain of the new giant warrior pirates, which Yorl and Jarl and Dory and Brogy were captains of the past giant warrior pirates. So now you kind of redo that, and you could almost even parlay this into like, maybe all of Elbaf become pirates, essentially, by like them all following Hajrudin. It's like they'll have the straw hat flag. There'll be a straw hat territory. They'll essentially all be under Luffy at that point. Then Hajrudin is kind of like, has like a much bigger role. Like remember when Big Mom was talking about how important the giant army would be if she got it after Loki's, the marriage. Yeah. If Luffy's got that, that would just be so cool. And Hajrudin's leading them. I just think that would just be. That'd be peak for Hajrudin. From Mock Vice to this. Yeah.
I do feel like though when it comes to him getting his queen, I think it's gonna be Gerd. Just something just feels to me like they just feel a natural like connection there. Where I'm like, yeah, that's Queenie right there, man. Mm-hmm. And especially like eventually we do see Harald and his queen previously before and stuff. I do feel like she's gonna have a design similar to that to Gerd, and maybe that's exactly where I could see where Hajrudin's like, now I have my person. Anyone who reads the story would be like, I see the connections there. It was just a match made in heaven. That one actually made in heaven. So
yeah, no, I could see that. I could definitely see that. I can't wait to see what happens with Hajrudin. He's officially my boy. He wasn't my boy before because he got one-shotted by Luffy. So I was like, he's kind of mid. But you know what? I rewatched the Mock Vice scene not that long ago. That was way better than I remembered. So
yes,
I got some respect for Hajrudin now for sure.
Yeah.
All right, next thing. So I will say we were going to talk a little bit about Gunko's powers, but I'll be honest, I don't have like. Oh shoot, I got to turn that back on. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Maybe if we have time, we'll come back to it. I think maybe one of the comments we're going to respond to later might bring it up. But let's go ahead and get to this, because I think this is what a lot of people want to hear about. This was the big moment, and so. I guess I'll just say first off, as I said towards the beginning, this is a monumental moment for the community, regardless of what, I theorized or anyone theorized or or even like how you feel about it, because I'm not like a huge fan, and I know some people love it, some people don't like it, some people, you know, are worried, or, you know, whatever. There's a lot of different feelings on it, but no matter what, this is a massive moment for the One Piece community. You know, this is insane. This really changes kind of the entire story. I actually had a friend who he's not into One Piece yet, but he is going to get started. And he keeps showing up to my streams, and I always give him a spoiler warning, like, dude, like, you do not want to watch these yet, but he just shows up anyway. Like, and he showed up in the last one, and I was like, dude, this was the worst chapter for you to come to a stream for.
Of all of them, like, what are you doing?
And he's like, oh, I'll forget. I'm like, I honestly don't know if you're gonna forget this.
Now, I will give him this credit though, because I joke around with and stuff, right? But I always say, like, you know, if I have CTE and stuff, whatever, it helps in my case because I'm gonna forget something. So like when I get told something I'm not supposed to know, I'm like, don't you worry, my CT activates and I forget. Yeah. And guess what? I forget about it. So you might be cooking with that one though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, worst case scenario, I can call in the Men in Black, and we can just wipe his memory, you know, if we need to. But you know, it just goes to show, like, this was such a monumental moment, and so you know, I have a lot to say about it. But first, I just want to get kind of your reaction to it, man. Like, what do you think? Are you excited for this, or just what do you think?
I'm here for it, dude. I mean, like, dude, like, first off, the name itself, Shamrock.
That's a cool name.
I know that it's beast. To me, that's the coldest name in the series. I'll stand on 10 toes, man. Like, when you like, so I grew up on wrestling. If you know Ken Shamrock and stuff, to me, it's Figarland, Ken Shamrock. I asked for one ankle lock. That's all I asked. I don't want an ankle slam. Just give me one ankle.
Wait,
lock,
have you heard Randy Troy's wrestling theory? I don't even know if it's really a theory, but that a lot of the giants are based off wrestlers. Have you heard that?
Oh yeah, I've been knew that. As soon as I knew Stanson with Stan Hansen,
right. Just want to make sure. If nobody's heard that, it's all over the place. like every giant, pretty much.
Just know I have a lot based off Stanson's name alone. I have a lot of hype behind him. So,
okay, and that's the guy that got saved. That's the one. Right? It's
so he was in the auction house with Rayleigh that they saved afterwards too, that eventually met up afterwards with Hajrudin. And
that's the kind of world building that I just love about One Piece, man.
I love it, dude.
But like in the chapter, that's one of those things where like every reaction I watched, like people read that and they were like, wait, did we know that? Wait, what? Like,
oh yeah,
Oda,
I made sure, bro.
Like, Oda, you just threw that in the little corner panel, and that's like the craziest thing. But about Shamrock, man, yeah, I agree. Awesome name. Like, Oda knocked it out of the park. You know, people were talking about like Stabs, which I know was like kind of a meme name, but
I was just like, no, I could not.
But hey, Shamrock's dope. And then you also have all the kind of like Celtic references there, the Irish references or whatever, right? I'm not really sure.
I got a lot of French gear that kind of came off to me, like, you know, the French Revolutionary and stuff. You know, like I think like Jeanne d'Arc, like a lot of those gears that they would wear and stuff from back then. That's kind of like the impression that I got for it. But if you get it from the Celtic one too, I mean, I'm here for that too, because he looks suave. He looks like he knows exactly how to dress himself and everything, and you know, obviously the key difference between him and Shanks probably we'll get into is more that he just does not have the mind that Shanks has. But I do want to expand more on that once you've spoken more on it, because I will be on a tangent about it.
No, I dude, if you want to go off on a tangent now, I mean, feel free. I mean,
okay. So basically, like, well, just to take it into the case before my camera gets emoed and stuff.
Oh, true.
But with the whole thing with the Shanks and stuff, I do feel like, you know, a lot of people are wondering, you know, because we talked about it off camera for a second, was that the dangers of having a character like Shamrock into the story, and, you know, let's say if Shanks ends up dying or whatever after. I do think there is a small chance that Shanks could actually, go over his expiration date in the story. Whereas, like, you know, let's say if they end up having a confrontation or something afterwards, I don't think like Shanks is going to be that type of character that's going to be like, well, that's my twin brother, Garling's my dad. I don't think he's going to be like have any remorse, because it's like at the end of the day, if the thing we are to believe, which should have been in the main story and not in some 4 billion trillion prequel thing, whatever, but that's the whole thing with Oda. If that thing is actually real, that from a year old that he was with the Roger crew, he has nothing there with his family. Regardless if you were with them for that 1 year, you know nothing about them and all that. So it's easy that Shamrock could have noticed about Shanks, which I do think that's the pirate that they were talking about with the Gorosei. I think it's like, my brother's out there doing this stuff, but just be very careful. And then we also know the fact that Shanks is on the move for the One Piece and all that. We know how he is when it comes to combat. He will not take any slander, any disrespect whatsoever. If you're going to come with him with disrespect, he's going to hand you something back afterwards you wish you never got in the first place. So I do think there's going to be that chance that they will end up meeting each other at some point in time. And I don't think Shanks is going to have the remorse whatsoever for his siblings and stuff. Like, he could be like, oh, I'm your brother. no, I will put you down. And I think that's the thing about Shanks' character that is going to stay with him. It's like it doesn't matter about him. He will just do what he does because at the end of the day, he is a pirate. And he's not going to put familial ties or any of that away. That's already been gone with the fact that Uta and stuff, we don't know what her situation too as well. She's alive, if not, based on the little tiny breadcrumb panel we got at the end of Wano and all that.
Or like, are we supposed to presume the movie was like just Oda's way of keeping her out of the story? You know, it's like, well, if I kill her in the movie, then nobody has to worry about her, even though it shouldn't really be canon. But I guess he could just say she died after a concert and just leave it there. You know,
something like that,
not a big deal.
And it affected him and everything too.
Right, but I do agree with you that like if Shanks has to fight him, or if they have ever fought, which is maybe another potential option. I definitely don't think he would care. Like you said, you know, Shanks is the kind of guy where like he's chill. I mean, he's literally like the chill guy meme, you know. But but whenever like his friends are in danger, you know, he doesn't care who you are. You know what I mean? He's gonna step in. So so I definitely agree. But do you think they've met before? Do you think they like do you think Shanks knows he exists?
It's tough to say because it's like I feel like if he did, I will say this though, there is one tiny inkling, and you remember going back. It's chapter 434. Thank God I have my memory.
Is that Whitebeard and Shanks?
Whitebeard and Shanks.
That's crazy. I know I've been reading too much One Piece. Shout
out to King Recon, bro. I learned from the best, man. But do you remember in that double spread afterwards when Shanks was talking to Whitebeard, and Whitebeard's like, every time I see you, I'm reminded of this scar. Now, obviously, the most obvious name in the world you can go with is Gold Roger.
Yeah. It's definitely the implication is Roger.
But what is Shamrock? Because again, the Gods Knights were there on that day, and I have to go back and look at panels, make sure, like, you know, I might have to literally do a chest reaction of Whitebeard to make sure we're on the same wavelength. But what if Shamrock was the one that laid that mark onto him?
Well, I got a little bit of rebuttal, and so I will say, now that we know Shamrock, it actually exists. I think the paradigm changes a little bit from before, but I will say I have been a staunch. That is definitely Roger and nobody else defender. Okay. And the reason why though, because there is like some good amount of factual evidence for it. Because I get why people think that. Like I can't blame anybody for reading that. Like reading it after all this has happened and be like, wait. But Whitebeard did not have any scars when he crash landed at Wano, which was after God Valley. So therefore, we know that the scars are not anything God Valley related. And then for that to be Shamrock, then that means that probably in the last like 15-ish years, like 18-ish years, he would have had to fight him, because Shamrock, if he's Shanks' age, he probably wouldn't even be near Whitebeard level till he's like 20-something. You know what I mean? Just like, that'd be disrespectful to Whitebeard, I feel like, to have like, you know, 15-year-old Shamrock like throwing hands. You know, like he's got to be in his prime, kind of. And so the issue there is, if you go to when Roger talked to Whitebeard like about the Will of D, if you go in the manga, Whitebeard's giant sake cup is blocking his chest, so you can't see it in the manga if he has a scar or not. But in the anime, he has a bandage on, or a scar. He definitely has something on his chest. I can't. Yeah. Well, they've actually done that scene a few times in the anime now, I think. And I think there are 2 different times at least, and I think one might have a bandage, one might have a scar. But regardless, there's a mark there in the anime, but you can't see it in the manga. Like, you know, it's inconclusive. And so the way that I kind of read that is like, well, if it's in the anime, but you know it's inconclusive in the other one, then I feel like the scar being there is the safest presumption, because like if the manga clearly showed there wasn't one, then obviously we'd side with that. But since we don't have that answer, I would go with the anime one. And so then if he has a scar while Roger is still alive, then that would make more sense. Because what you would have to argue then is that Whitebeard was clashing with the Gods Knights this entire time. We've never heard of it. Or he's been going to the cleansings every 3 years and we never heard of it. Which, like, Whitebeard's a beast. But if, like, no disrespect, but like if him and all of his boys showed up to Marineford and lost to just the admirals, and I mean there was other people, but like, you know, it's not like Emu and the Gorosei and the Gods Knights pulled up to Marineford. If they pulled up there and lost, then I really can't see them going to, you know, God Valley or God Valley-like things every 3 years and not losing beforehand, right? Because like they would have been fighting Gods Knights and Gorosei that entire time. And I would also say if Whitebeard goes to 1 and messes with it, the Gorosei are cooking him, or maybe not the Gorosei, but like the government's gonna be like, hey, Whitebeard, stop messing with us, you know?
Yeah. So the only other person I could think of too maybe would be Garling. because again, like we know with him being young there and pulling up to Whitebeard, but again, it all comes down to the conclusive evidence in the story and stuff there, because it'd be one of those weird things where it's like, why would you bring up his family like that? Why don't you just be like honest with us and just be like, yeah, man, this guy's got something he's hiding. Like, you're hiding a whole family, Shanks. Like, that's literally what's happening there. But whether that's on by his own accord, he was just thrown to the chest. That has to be explained. How the hell you throw the kid in the damn chest, bro? That's what I want to figure out.
Well,
like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just wild, bro.
Here's my theory on it is, well, there's a couple ways this could work, but generally speaking, Emu got you.
Turn it back on, yeah.
It's all good.
Worry,
It's Emu. So something crazy is about to be said, guys. Emu used future sight. Well, what I think happened is one of the fruits on God Valley, because I don't know if you believe this, but I think all the chests have fruits in them.
Okay.
Probably, because I mean, like, they talked about like the hype of the pawpaw fruit and the dragon fruit, right? And we have these 6 chests, and they talked about stealing this treasure from Hachinosu. Rocks is a Blackbeard parallel. What if that treasure were the devil fruits, because he's collecting fruits like Blackbeard did? They stole important ones, etc. And if that's all true, well, what if the Op fruit was one of those? And the reason I say that is if somebody ate it there, they could have shambled whatever was in the chest with Shanks. So that's how so they saved Shanks by doing it that way. I think that would be kind of cool.
Interesting.
Because then later we know that, like, the Op fruit, with like I think it was 13 years ago when Diaz Bullets found it and all that stuff, right? So that's like 25 years. Like, so I'm like, yeah, somebody could have eaten the Op fruit back at God Valley and then had it for 25 years and then died, and then Barrels got it, right? Like, all that timeline works. So so yeah, that's where I'm at on that one. But
I mean, there would be a crazier one too. Let's say, because we don't know again with Shanks' mom and stuff in the situation, but let's say something had happened to the mom, and her last parting gift was putting that kid in the chest.
Yeah.
For hopefully that there's a better life that's there, and then it goes from her out back into the open until eventually falls himself into Law's hands after. But that would be cool. Pretty crazy, because it opens up the idea again too with the Don Quixote family. We thought, okay, well, everyone's Tenrobito, they're bad and stuff. Not really the case. Like, the mom definitely not. Homing, the way he went about things, you gotta question some stuff here and there, but there was an evil heart to it. It was more so with Doflamingo. But I think you do something like that. That's where I feel like the kindness and like the human aspect comes when it comes to Shanks' character versus, if he was to show no remorse and stuff, it may come off as Garling, but it's more so, I have my own people that I want to protect and stuff. He has his own family now too, as well, with Makino and that kid. I refuse to believe people saying it's Wolfslap's kid or something.
No,
that's just absolutely madness to me.
Shanks,
absolutely madness.
Shanks did with Makino what Roger did with Porcus D. Rouge, essentially, right? He has a girlfriend in a far-off sea that nobody's going to bother. That's not like a big name. Had a kid with her and is hoping nobody will raise their eyebrows, like that. Because they even said, like, oh, Roger was hanging around the West Blue. I think it was the West Blue, South Blue, whatever it was. And then like, well, we know he's hanging around here. Go door to door, do all this. Like, they'll probably do the same thing eventually. Like, Shanks was always hanging around the East Blue. Like, I could definitely see that whole thing happening.
And it scares me of like having spawns of like Roger's kid, because that's like my great fear that Oda would do something like that, where it's like, hey, that guy is like Roger's like illegitimate son, then we may have Shanks' illegitimate son. Like, that's like my great fear of all that happening, and it's something that I could see Oda possibly doing. But whether he wants to deal with that kind of like, I don't know if it'd be backlash or something, but maybe more from a story point. It's like, why'd you do that? It would have been cool to see at Marineford when an Ace announced himself, and then it's like all the, I guess, can we swear on here or whatever? Because I'm just classifying the terminology and stuff, whatever. But the bastard kids, like, if we're gonna do something like that, possibly, it's like, I would make sense of Marineford to do it, not as we get to the end of the game, because it's like, you had all that time, like,
exactly, dude. I mean, all in all, I think there's a lot that Oda's gonna do with the like backstory to all this. Like, he's obviously gonna do the, like, Shamrock is what Shanks would be if he stayed with the Celestial Dragons. Like, I think that's definitely where this is all going, and like we're seeing that like difference in will with like nurture versus nature stuff. And I'm sure Oda's gonna cook with that, but my issue, and I have a few thoughts on the whole where this could potentially go. But we've kind of already seen that with like Dofi and Corazon. Like, it's not the exact same thing because they both left together, and so it was different than one staying and one leaving. But I guess that's kind of my thing. Is I'm like, Oda's gonna have to do something really special to make that feel different. Because like, if it's just what we already think, we're like, yep, like one's shitty, one's good because they grew up in different places. Like, I think that's very straightforward. So I'm really hoping Oda has some like major, implications for this beyond just that general point. Because I agree with you about what you said, like, maybe all celestial dragons aren't that bad, and I actually think Luffy's mom is probably in the same boat. I feel
that too.
Yeah, I think she was a celestial dragon, and Dragon fell in love with her because she was the one really good one. I think she was like Otohime, but with the celestial dragons, and they had this kid, and they probably took Luffy away for the same reason that Shanks had to be taken away. Like, you can't leave him here because he won't have true freedom. He's going to live this terrible. Well, it's a good life in terms of you get spoiled, but bad in terms of you treat people terribly. And I think all that is definite. I'm hoping Oda has something really special. And we are going to keep talking about Shamrock, but I want to go ahead and jump over to some comments real quick, because what I did was I fielded some comments from people. And Kush, we will do yours last. Sorry about that. Or maybe not last, but we'll do yours in a second. I want to find this other one that's about Shanks. Hold on. I can't. There it is. This one. AI Wander. I'm not really sure, but this is something.
I've seen them before. Yeah.
So I asked people to post in my Discord, which I have a few questions from, because I have a section specifically for these videos, so they can ask questions for us to respond to, and also leave comments, which I honestly think I forgot to mention it last stream, so these are just random comments, but regardless, I thought they were good points to talk about. So AI Wander, whatever, however you say it, I apologize if I'm butchering that. Shamrock versus Mihawk is the final matchup. Remember, Mihawk wants to rival Shanks. I think Shamrock is as strong as Shanks, if not more. And so, what I want to play off of this is, for one thing, with Mihawk and Shanks' rivalry, do you think Mihawk and Shamrock have ever fought? And secondarily, do you think? I already asked you about Shanks and Shamrock fighting or meeting each other before, but alternatively, where do you see the Shamrock stuff going from here in terms of who he's going to fight next? Like, do you think Shamrock is going to lose here and not really have a role after this arc? Or do you think, I don't know, is Zoro going to come in and fight Shamrock? Is this going to be a prep fight for Mihawk for Zoro? Just what do you see?
There's so many avenues it can go into. I mean, obviously, you would link with him having a sword and stuff. The Rapier, I believe the name of the blade and stuff is. Especially if he is the guy that was in chapter 1122's cover page. I'm hoping I got the right number there on that. That was underneath Dragon. But I do think that him having the sword and stuff, you obviously have to put up him against Zoro and everything. I do think that's going to be one of those moments where Zoro's going to have that fight, and it's like, oh, damn, like this. It's literally a carbon copy almost, we think, to Shanks, and I would expect that he's going to get some blowback after where it's like, oh, God, this guy is something different. It's going to take someone like Luffy to step up, because I do think if he's able to beat someone like Shamrock, I think he can stand on the same equal footing as Shanks. Whether we think there's like a crazy difference in gap and stuff, I think that's going to be the indicator of how close Luffy is to really tangling with like the top echelon of the story.
Yeah, and so I want to play off of a little bit. Do you think there's a chance that basically when Zoro and Luffy pull up on Shamrock and Gunko, that Zoro has a divine departure done to him, just like Roger did to Odin? Remember that?
I could see that happening.
It might not be divine departure. It might be a similar.
I see one
attack
happening. I see something happening, but it's going to be very disrespectful. Because have you watched Bleach?
I have not. No.
Okay. So
well, the first 5 episodes, but.
Oh, okay. Well, it's gonna be very hard to explain, but for people who know the famous Aizen Ichigo scene, without me going too much into detail, and I'll just do this with my finger so people know exactly what I mean by that. If that were to happen with Zoro, I think the entire community would be up in flames. And when I say the entire community, the Zoro fans, I think that would be one of the most craziest things they could do. And I think that would be actually even more wild than a divine departure. I think I would be begging for that instead, because that would be like the ultimate disrespect, whatever, to do something like that to him. But I do think he's gonna catch like a move that's just gonna be like, oh damn, like that's gonna send. He might go flying to the other side of Elbaf. I think there's a very big possibility.
Ooh, and then he gets lost for the rest of the arc.
And that's the thing. Or the other option that you have is with Gunko, because of the arrows, because we're seeing that it can control directions and stuff. He's going to get hit, like stab something, and it's going to lead him afterwards into another area, into Elbaf. Whether he goes up into the top or he goes further into the underworld. We do know the fact of him, with the whole, him seeing the Grim Reaper and stuff when he was in the Death State. I do think there's a possibility. I don't know if he's seen the idea. I'm trying to remember who I talked about this. I think it was with Recon. Whereas like the tree of the Atom Tree of the Elbaf and stuff, that the underworld is actually pass through there if it's supposed to be based on Yggdrasil, the name of the tree and
Yggdrasil,
stuff. So so if it's like that, it's like tapping into like the underworld and everything, that would be a crazy way for him to gotta go back into the dead zone and stuff, and like having to go through all of that before he gets back to the surface. So if that's gonna be Gunko's way of sending him there, it would be crazy.
Yeah, and shout out to Growth Stonks from my Discord who brought this idea up, but it could be like the attack isn't divine departure, but like underworld departure in some way, like hellish departure. I don't know what they would call it, but then it's like the opposite, and that could kind of tie into, you know, we just saw the Gods Knights use the summoning circles, which are underworld related, right? Emu is almost definitively underworld related in my opinion at this point. So it's like, you know, maybe, I don't know, and Zoro wants to be the king of hell, and if you know, demon departure or whatever is used on him, and it's a guy who has underworld related powers, and you know, to me there's just a lot there that could happen for Zoro, because even going back to like Ashura, like we still don't know what the hell that is, but it's something like demonic, you know, it's something like hell related, or you know, like he's tripling himself. Like what what are we talking about? So yeah, I think that could actually go a long way for Zoro. But like you said, I don't want the community getting too upset thinking, you know, Zoro's getting no diff. But then again, if anybody is gonna no diff him, or I shouldn't say like no diff, because like he's not gonna die or, you know, really lose that poorly, I would imagine. But he definitely will, you know, get overpowered for a moment at least. And, you know, I feel like if it's going to be anybody, Shamrock makes the most sense, if not Mihawk, because Shamrock probably is Mihawk level, I would imagine. Nobody's Vista level, though, to be clear.
No, Vista's just different beast, bro.
Yeah,
a different beast.
If he showed up, Shamrock would be popping another circle to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, but to say that in terms of the final matchup,
Vista
will
be the God's Knight, actually. That's the
precisely.
next person.
Yeah, but to say in terms of the final matchup and stuff between Shamrock and Mihawk, listen, it's Zoro and Mihawk. Let's be honest. At the end of the day, I think I would believe more in Shanks being Shamrock's actual final fight than it would be Mihawk, because I do think like if they've had encounters back then, I think it would go in two ways possibly. Either that Shamrock is gonna be chasing down Mihawk to the ends of the earth until he gets his like a lick back or something if they had fought before, or Mihawk would have killed him. I generally think if you're really gonna tell us this guy is the greatest swordsman in the world, it don't matter what your standing is. If you got a sword in your hand and you're trying to kill him, he's going to kill you. Like, play as simple as that.
Yep, and you got to think about how Mihawk, you know, like didn't want to fight Shanks anymore because he lost one of his arms. But then if Shamrock pulls up, like, and again, I agree with you. Like, if we're talking final matchup, it's Mihawk versus Zoro. But
absolutely,
but I do like the idea, and see the fact that Emu is popping in here again.
They don't want me speaking on it, bro.
I could see Mihawk fighting Shamrock for some period of time, just so we get like a glimpse of what the real Mihawk and Shanks fights were like, or what one would be like if it happened in real time. You know what I mean? Like the old ones, like, because remember Whitebeard was like hyping those things up. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I like that. I would love to see Shamrock versus Mihawk at some point, but I agree. Final fight wise, I mean, Zoro. When Mihawk loses, it'll be to Zoro. You know, like that, like definitely. So the next question I want to ask, you know, let's go ahead and ask this one. I thought this was funny. Wow, Nathan Fillion, are there mink-like giants? Where are the giant cat girls at?
You know what? I'm not gonna be lying. I'm asking that same thing too now. At this point in time,
it was what I read that and I was like, oh, that's just a meme question. And then I went back and thought about it more. I was like, you know what, bro? That's a good point. Are there?
Now, do you know how scary it is if they had Sulong, a giant mink having Sulong?
That might be what Loki essentially is, in my opinion. Not that he has Sulong, but if he has a Sun God fruit, goes like Gear 5, it looks the same. Yeah. That might be exactly what they're going for.
Yeah, or the other one, I mean, it sucks that the series unfortunately sucks now when you hear about it. But if you know Seven Deadly Sins, Nanatsu no Taizai, there's a character there that has this whole ability that's based on the sun and stuff, where in the daytime, if he goes out there and fights, he is literally God. But if he goes in the nighttime, he is scrawny, he's like just chill and everything. So I think it's going to be a scenario where he's just going to be insanely OD. And I think the reason why he's covering his eyes is not look into the sun, possibly, because I think that's what's probably going to awaken him just going on a complete tirade.
Oh, Laz, you're cooking. Wait, so it's like reverse Sulong. Like maybe he's the sun god because if he looks at the sun, he transforms. I love that.
Because my assumption is that with him having the observation hockey feat that we saw in this chapter, because listen, Shamrock was saying if he were out of those chains and stuff, it would be the same result. No, it would not, bro. Because if he has this power to be able to like magnify himself to that next degree, I don't care. Even if it is Shanks pulling up right now, like the reason why Shanks stopped Loki is because he's Shanks. But if there's that difference in like one in like there or whatever, that might be the difference that Loki needs to be able to whop someone like that. And I don't think you want that kind of smoke, man. Like the way the fact that this guy, I don't even know if it's a burp, I don't know if it's whatever he did, but that thing would have destroyed an island. The fact that it was in Elbaf, it was just, that's calm, it's whatever, it's in Elbaf. But if what he did there would have shook the continent to its foundation there. So I think if he was out of those chains and it was just on someone else's island, that island is going up in smoke. And I think that's the great fear about someone like Loki, which again fits again with him having the special bounty of 2 billion something whatever. And this is literally prior to us even knowing that there's characters out there that have a bounty of that level and stuff. So and I agree with this too.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is good. It's probably a good point to bring this up 100%. Then too, because I wanted to ask you, because I agree with this guy. And again, I forgot to tell people to comment questions, so I just took some random ones. But I saw this, I was like, hey, we have to talk about this because this is to me that I have I'm almost at like agenda status on this, where I think Loki is definitely like not a. Like, if he did kill his dad, he did it for a good reason. Maybe he just didn't kill him at all. Maybe like he was, framed in some way. I mean, now it doesn't seem that way from what we heard from Roto, but Roto also said that's the first time he's ever been there, so he's just hearing the story everybody else heard. But regardless, no matter what, I don't think Loki's going to be a bad dude. Like, he might do bad things. I don't see it. But because like destroying the world, that's kind of bad in a way. But kind of like they said, the sun god ties to destruction and liberation and laughter, or like they argued which one. But I think it's all three, because sometimes destroying bad things is what is liberating people, right? Yeah. And so as far as Loki being a bad guy, yeah, I agree with this comment. What do you think?
I think, literally to me, bro, he's going to be the Shadow the Hedgehog of One Piece. It's going to be that character that you think is evil and all that, but guess what? The streets made him that way. Yeah, that's going to be like, if there's an agenda, if there's my agenda for Loki or anything in One Piece, because shout out to Agenda Piece and the J, but that would be my agenda right there. It's like the streets made Loki this way. If you complain about him killing this person, setting people's houses on fire, whatever, y'all caused it. You smacked up that kid. You made him feel like crap. Guess what he's doing? He's going to be doing all the evil stuff afterwards because y'all put some evil into his head. That's just simple as that. They're talking about him killing a steed. Bro, you might have done something to that kid. And this is why I know Imbu's just doesn't want to be talking about this all this time. Crazy. Maybe it's Harold from the grave. Maybe it's Harold from the grave. That brother won't be talking about this stuff, bro.
Hold on. Wait. You just gave me an idea. Harold from the grave. Hold on. We have all this Oars talk.
Talk to me.
And this is a whole other tangent that we don't necessarily have time for. If you want the proof, I can send it to you later. But I've been hugely on the agenda that Cross Guild is going to pull up here during this arc, because I think Shanks versus Blackbeard is going to be happening soon, and so you have to have the other two Yonkos clash. And if there's one group for the Cross Guild to go after, it's the Straw Hats. And if Moria joins the Cross Guild and pulls up to Elbaf, which makes sense with all the Oars talk, just that alone, all this Oni stuff, it would make sense that Moria, who has the horns, like we don't know what's going on with him, he would pull up. If he brings the shadow powers, and Harold's body is there. Is Harold going to be like an Oars-like person this arc? And then Moria could also awaken. And that would, who knows what that would do.
Yeah, the one thing I will say when it comes to Moria, because we were told back in Thriller Bark, I'm glad that this memory just came to my mind, is that after the events of Kaido, because he was Selklam, and I hope I'm using the actually right word and stuff, but like he was just chilling back basically. That his power had waned over time because of the amount of times that he stayed back and stuff. So I don't know if it's like
he didn't believe in himself.
Power. Yeah, he didn't believe in himself. So, I mean, that could also be another thing, too. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to be at your best. So, if you were to find that again, then you would be, right? So, but that would be pretty damn scary. Like, you bring, like how we saw with Captain John and everything and all of them. I mean, that would be... if he had the body, possibly, because there's no talks about a grave. Like, we have not seen anything like that, like cemeteries and everything yet in Elbaf, so...
Which I actually think that's what the Heaven Realm is, personally.
That's probably, with it... Oh, bro! I just thought right now. Oh my god! It just
cook. Go ahead and cook. We got a little bit of time to cook. Go for it. What?
Yeah. So like, I'm trying to remember what the exact series is, but I'm probably gonna miss profile.
One other thing I just want to throw in before I forget it, because it might help you while you're thinking, is Moria and Kaido have this rivalry. We talked all about Harold and Kaido being related, and Kaido maybe coming back. If Moria came back and we got this whole Moria Oars Kaido thing fully developed, and finalized. Like, give me that. And then, what if Kaido fought his dad from like there's just so many cool things that could happen, bro. What are you thinking though? It seems like you got an idea.
Because like I remember, so you remember go back to Wano Country and stuff. I remember how we thought that we were about to see like the spirits and stuff after of like Odin, but the way that Kinemon was like talking about it and everything. So back then I did a discussion video, and I remember like didn't like this. So I put like, you remember like Donkey Kong and stuff, right? So Cranky Kong's wife, there's like the ghosting, whatever, her and stuff, right? I was just thinking in my mind, just to go into the next realm, it's like, what if it's like, think like Harry Potter, like, you know how like if they have like Dumbledore has like that cauldron and stuff of all the different memories and spirits and whatever it's there, that's what we're going to see in the sky. Like the heavens, like world or whatever, that's what that is. Like this is where literally the dead go, and like if you were a good person, you're gonna be up there, and if you were a bad person, you're gonna be where Gunko's about to play Zoro afterwards in that little underworld thing. That would be crazy.
What it would parallel to is the Skypiea trees, right?
It would, yeah.
And so, like, what if the heaven realm? That's like the part where like the good souls get to stay at. If you're bad, you stay in the frozen part.
Exactly.
Because in my mind, the three layers already represent the world. It's like the bottom is the underworld because it's cold. We already know the underworld's cold because of Brook's ice powers and all that stuff. Then the sun realm is where like Earth. That's like where people are alive normally, right? And then the heaven realms where you go after you die. If you're a good person is the normal idea, right? So. Yeah, dude, that would be so good. This when we're not done. We have a couple more minutes here, but this has been an amazing discussion. I have I have several videos that I might do now tying to some of this, dude.
Literally
the Oars Moria hype. I'm like so ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to go here. Yeah, because I think this is the most upvoted one. So my guy Kush.A here said, did Hajrudin help Saul out with the saving the library of Ohara because Hajrudin's mom was from the same country? Could Saul possibly be Hajrudin's uncle or cousin? Because remember, Saul, you mentioned at the very beginning, he thought Elbaf giants were kind of like barbarians, savages, and he didn't really like them. But he did end up working with them to save the books from Ohara. And is that maybe all tied together where Saul, and Hajrudin had kind of a connection? Like, what Hajrudin maybe showed up, and then maybe Saul is like, well, I don't really like Elbaf giants. And he's like, well, my mom's from this place. And he's like, wait, who was she? And then they have this discussion. Like, that would hit, in my opinion. That would be really cool.
For sure.
And it would go a long way for Hajrudin becoming king of the giants, because it's like he's mending a giant group that doesn't like Elbaf. Well, they don't hate Elbaf as much now because of Hajrudin, right? He's already starting that whole thing. So what do you think?
I mean, I like the idea and stuff, right? Because it also helps like tie things a little bit easier and everything, right? Without having to go like the extra credential details and introducing other characters and everything. So to have that happen there, that would be dope. And then it's just again like just because we already know the connection Saul has now with Elbaf and everything, and him now being the protector of the Owl Library and all that, so I think that would be a really cool tidbit I could see Oda doing in the story, and just just giving a little bit more there. That's even if it's in the grand scheme of things to some people it may not mean a lot, but at least in terms of like connecting the dots to the grander picture, this will be really dope.
Yeah, I would love this, and I almost feel like this is like very, very likely that there's like there's going to be more backdrop to that whole thing. Like Saul being at Ohara and like kind of beginning this like giant like culture thing. Yeah. It's just like that's got to tie in. All right, so we're gonna try to run through it a couple more here real quick, and then we're gonna get out of here. Pangeo said, hello there. Shamrock announced that the world government will bring them to heel no matter what. I assume God's Knights intend to take over Elbaf by force. Is this going to be the main conflict of the arc? So, we talked a little bit about, like Moria's potential here, Kaido, Big Mom showing up. A lot of people have said Shiki might show up, which I'm on that train. And so between all that, I have a hard time saying what the main conflict is going to be. Like, the main conflict to me is Loki getting freed. He's going to be the biggest threat. But with all these other threats and the God's Knights, I mean, if Shanks captured Loki, Shamrock might be on that same level. So he's also is almost as much of a threat. And so I don't know. What are your thoughts here? Do you think what do you think the main conflict is?
I mean, it's tough to say because I think if you were to introduce more of the God's Knights and stuff, and like I made this a recurring joke now since the God Knights have come in, is that this is basically Organization 13 of One Piece, and that their theme song literally plays in my head, where it's like you're gonna see multiple members of grand stature and stuff that have been hiding in the shadows with these activities and have their own hidden agendas and stuff. Maybe they're gonna be aligned to each other, but at the end of the day, the leader being Shamrock, I was now assumed because we got the name drop there. He's the captain and everything. Right. That they're going to go by his word. In terms of what the tact is going to be exactly, because you have to think about it already. Elbaf has never been once breached nor attacked in a majority of its history, right? The world government's never really gone and attacked them and everything. If Big Mom's words were to have value, they have the strongest military, at the time. Now that we were actually there, they're woke. So it's a little bit difficult
right.
to, you know, believe that they still have that energy, which they don't seemingly by their troops and everything. They have a good amount that could still go to battle, but probably not as what it used to be. But I do think a lot of the strength also comes in the fact of Loki as well, because I do think he makes up a massive difference. You put him there, nobody would want to be in their right mind going and trying to attack Elbaf, knowing that demon could be lurking around, even on the outskirts of the shores or on a ship. Remember, he was on a ship causing mayhem before Shanks stopped him. If you allowed that guy to go off and do anything there, whatever Dory Brogy or their peoples were doing back then would have been nothing comparison to what Loki was capable of. So yeah, they got lucky that Shanks was there at the right place in time to stop that.
For sure.
But in terms of what the actual conflict, though, I think it's just gonna be banding the groups together and stuff, like the monarchs and everything between Hajrudin and Loki, to try and repel back afterwards with the God's Knights before something ends up happening in the background that leads everyone to kind of just, you know, go off, prepare, and get ready for the actual final war. So like, I would say a pretense to the final war.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. You know, like this is setting up the God's Knights more than like ending the God's Knights in my mind, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think all the God's Knights are going to appear and get defeated. So by that definition, I have a hard time saying they'll be the main conflict, because that's usually like the main conflict is usually someone who gets defeated and they're done. You know, maybe they'll come back later because Oda always brings the villains back. But like,
precisely,
like this is starting the God's Knights' influence in the story instead of ending it, in my opinion. So
yes,
so I wouldn't say they're the main conflict, but one of them. And then last thing from Aaron, do we know anything about the other giant country? Do they know Nika? Do you think all giants worship Nika because of the legends, or do you think that's an Elbaf specific thing?
I would believe that the Nika was like you know, he was like an inspiration to a lot of these other giants too. I do think there's going to be something that's going to happen. Like, I feel like not even just from Harald, but probably from even like previous to that and stuff, like that regime. But I think that might more expand into like Joy Boy and stuff. That like, I do think all the giants at one point in time were on fine terms, but then something ended up happening afterwards where, you know, let's say the offsprings or whatever, they had to like separate them after, because, you know, rulings are different, right? Certain kings maybe want like, you know, certain bloods and stuff within the family to stay within, and those that were kind of like mingle with other tribes and stuff were probably just sent out after. So I think they were just sent to different places. They still have ties to Elbaf, but not like on official terms. So they're kind of like unofficial Elbafians basically. So, and in terms of do they know Nika, I would imagine like if the Buccaneers from like Kuma's race and stuff were aware of him, and I mean that was a big part of their whole history and everything too.
That's a good point. That is a really good point.
Yeah, especially with the way that the giants have, like, again with Elbaf, I feel like there's a lot of lore and stuff to the Void Sentry, which again, main person tied to that is Joy Boy. And the way Ripley spoke about him too, as well, it's like there is definitely details that we don't know about, that they know, that when we find out about it, it's like it's gonna really expand our horizons on this character. Yeah, and that's really interesting, because another connection I'm thinking of is the Skypians, or all the sky races, I should say, because they also worship gods. One a sun god that was the snake thing, but they called it a sun god, right? And then you have like the god like Gonfall or Enel and Skypia, and then we don't really know what Burka was all about just yet. But they have to be massively important, in my opinion. That's why Yarouge is coming this arc, because he's a Birkin and gonna him and Enel. Yarouge is my guy, man. You and I can do a whole Yarouge video, man. You know what? Active right now, man. Because listen to me, bro. There's characters in this story that are like top 5 or whatever that I want to see when they're on screen. I'm there for them and everything. But this brother right here, and I hope the camera doesn't disrespect them while we're still active. That's my goat right there, man. But that's the goat, bro, though. Look at that, bro. Ma D Monk, bro. And look about a beast. And if you guys don't know, his hobbies are lovemaking and drinking and gambling. So he's too busy to come to Elbaf right now. He's got bigger fish to fry. But he'll get tired and show up eventually. He's coming. Absolutely, bro. Well, you got it, man, for the goats. You and I can do an entire Yarouge video. Okay, like you and we will meet again. I can't wait. He's my favorite supernova that isn't a straw hat or law. Look, Emu! Look at that. He's so hot fire. That's crazy. So fire, bro. Like his hockey. I'm telling you, bro, that greatness that Oda don't want to show you it, bro. And he's just going crazy, man. So hopefully we get this. But all right, Laz, and everyone watching, I do have to go. My friend is actually here. The Cavaliers are starting. So Laz, would you like to give a quick plug for your channel, or say anything to the people before we head out? And also, before you do, thank you for taking the time for this, by the way, because I know you worked today, and this was an amazing discussion. Like we said, there's so many theories that just came out of this discussion. I'm genuinely like in an extremely good One Piece mood, which I usually am, but like sometimes my brain is just like, just running, and that's where I'm at. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna go downstairs and watch the Cavs game. And like my friend's like almost caught up on One Piece. He's like just a couple chapters behind. I'm like, dude, so
I got some theories on Oars. like that.
Yeah.
Like that's how I feel right now. So,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
anyway,
I'm the same way too, yeah.
anything you'd like to say to the people, Laz?
Well, first, again, thank you again for bringing me on here, man. It was a long time coming to be able to talk about this and stuff, and just go into detail more about Elbaf and just the events that have been going on. This arc right now has been off to an insane start. I mean, there's been so many arcs I've done that, but just this one in particular, because it's one we're waiting so many years for, and now getting to be here for the weekly experience is just tremendous. And hopefully this won't be the last time we do this. I'm pretty sure it won't be. Whenever Oda decides to do another insane landmine moments in the story, we'll be back on here for it. But in terms of stuff right now, obviously, of course, I cover the One Piece manga every single week. My coverage right now is limited to the manga for the moment. When the anime does come back, I will try to find the time. I know it comes out on the Saturday nights, and that's a little bit difficult and stuff, as with life in the way and everything. But outside of that, though, I do cover the Dadadan manga. I'm pushing that one right there. People need to know the greatness of Dadadan by Yukino Butatsu. I talk about the manga every single Monday when it comes out through Viz Media or through Manga Plus officially. So if you're down for those videos and stuff, and hopefully I'll probably end up doing streams for them too with the manga, definitely go and check that out. And of course, I do cover the anime for that. Basically, anything to do with Dadadan, I'm there for it. In terms of One Piece, though, there is a lot of discussion videos. I am trying to work out and stuff. I have upgraded equipment and stuff here and there in the last few months, so hopefully I'll be able to do a lot more stuff. It definitely, it was looking good, and hopefully I can figure out how to stop Emu from infiltrating my camera, bro. Because
good luck, man.
Just because. You know what I mean? But
those summoning circles are a bitch, man. I'm telling you. Emu gets in wherever he needs to.
All you have to do is just hit a Namu, though, with this guy right here, and then everything will be good after, man.
Facts.
But but aside from that, though, I do have a couple other stuff I'm just working on at the moment in terms of scripts and stuff. It just, you have to get your idea. Do I want to talk about like this? Want to put a bunch of images and stuff? And once I get the brain flowing, we go from there. But definitely have a lot I do want to talk about, hopefully in the next break week. From there, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, definitely check out Laz's channel. I know you and I talked a little bit that I might also be on there at some point, so be on the lookout for that as well.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to those discussion videos, and Laz will be back in the future as well. Especially if any of the stuff we just talked about comes true, you're coming right back.
We got receipts. Like the receipts are literally hanging on these walls like banners and stuff, man.
Facts. So, and the Yarouge video, we're gonna have to do that too, man. We're gonna have to do a good big Yarouge video. Man, I'm pumped you love your Rouge. That's seriously,
bro.
He's
that's
amazing.
My dog, bro. Every time I hear disrespect on his name because he lost to somebody, whatever. Listen, I don't want to hear. Oda's saving the best for last. Just remember, saving the best for last.
Karma fruit. Just remember karma. Anytime you talk smack about your Rouge, karma's coming right back. You know it for a fact.
That's big facts, bro.
But all right, everyone. Thank you all for watching. Seriously, I appreciate it. And till next week, because we are going to be doing chapters or reviews every single chapter. So be on the lookout next week because we are not on a break. But till next time, guys. Appreciate you. Peace.
Take care.